Well, hello again, wise guys and ghouls, and welcome to a special Halloween edition of Wise Eats. I'm former fat guy and Halloween candy aficionado Wes Wise. You know, Halloween has always been one of my very favorite times of the year, so we're going to celebrate in style on today's show. Going to be diving into a Halloween edition of the Fat Guy Files. We're going to do a couple of top 10 lists with the most popular Halloween candies, my favorite scary movies, also some fun facts about Halloween, also a recipe of the week you're not going to want to miss, plus plenty more thrills and chills. So let's get to it.
Here's to your bad health. See you next time, boys and ghouls.
Now let's get the party started with some fun facts and history about Halloween. This info comes courtesy of Good Housekeeping and FactRetriever.com. Now, Halloween, also known as All Hallows Eve or Witches' Night, goes back more than 2,000 years. It started as a pre-Christian Celtic festival called Samhain, which means summer's end. It celebrated the final day of the harvest and the crossing of spirits over into the other world. People in Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France would ward off ghosts by lighting sacrificial bonfires and wearing costumes, according to History.com. Halloween is the second highest grossing commercial holiday after Christmas. Consumers spent about $9 billion on Halloween in 2018, and the average American spends about $87 on Halloween every year, including decorations, costumes, candy, and cards. New York City actually throws the biggest Halloween parade in the United States, so shout out to everybody that loves having a party.
That's what I call dragging your wife to a party.
The largest pumpkin ever measured was grown by Norm Craven, who broke the world record in 1993 with an 836-pound pumpkin. In 2006, New Hampshire actually declared its state fruit as the pumpkin. The state of Illinois produces up to 5 times more pumpkins than any other state, and the record for the most lit pumpkins on display belongs to Keene, New Hampshire, with 30,581. The fastest pumpkin carving record belongs to Stephen Clark, who did it in 16.47 seconds. The pumpkin was required to have a complete face, including eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. The most popular costumes among children are superheroes and princesses. The most popular costume for a dog in 2018 was a pumpkin, and the most popular adult costume is a witch. And actually, the word witch comes from the Old English word wiki, which means wise woman. You know, as a kid, Halloween was easily my second favorite holiday next to Christmas. You know, every year my dad would take me trick-or-treating. I'd have my pillowcase, and it was a challenge just to stock that sucker up with as much Halloween candy as I could, and then I'd try to devour it all before any of my brothers tried stealing it from me. But anything scary, whether it be haunted houses, scary movies, you name it, I was all about it. These days, I don't get to celebrate it quite as much as I used to, but it's still one of my favorite holidays. I love the decorations, I love the atmosphere, and just the spirit of Halloween. And one of my favorite aspects of Halloween is watching scary movies. I grew up adoring horror movies, and it was by far my favorite genre of movie. And I probably was able to watch them way too young, and I was probably 6 years old. And there was a corner video store a block away from my house, and I made it a goal to rent every single horror movie in that place and watch all of them. And actually, I started this 40-year-old virgin style horror figure collection that you see behind me. And obviously, I still have it today. But I'm not a virgin. I'm happily married. And I'm not as much of a horror movie buff these days as I used to be, but I still like a good scary movie every now and then. And it's funny because my wife is the total opposite. She does not like horror movies. She doesn't watch them, and she can't really understand why I would love them so much, or why anybody, for that matter, would want to put something scary or evil in their eyes. And I've tried to explain it to her, but it's kind of a hard thing to put into words, which actually got me thinking, why do we like horror movies so much? For those of us that do, why do we like them so much? And I think it's a great question, so I did a little research on it, and I actually found this article from ScienceNordic.com that I wanted to share. The article says, when we watch a horror film, we respond to the dangerous and horrifying situations that are being depicted. We identify with the fictional characters who confront terrifying threats. We feel revulsion and terror. We go through a range of emotions as we're watching, and through that experience, we learn something about our own responses. Horror provides us with insights into ourselves and into the dark corners of the world, and it lets us develop and refine coping skills that may be critical later in life. So I thought that was a pretty cool description of why we love horror movies. And for me, it's almost like horror is a survival mechanism. By paying close attention to tragedy, we actually help maximize our own chance for survival. It's the same reason we can't help but look when we see a car wreck on the side of the road. But the difference with horror movies is no one actually has to get hurt. At the end of the day, humans just want to be entertained. We want to feel something, an emotion, whether it's happiness, fear, or sympathy, because it energizes us. We laugh at inappropriate jokes, we cheer for our hero, and we demand justice for the villain. We find pleasure in experiencing a variety of emotions in a safe atmosphere. In that aspect, horror is just another way to experience a thrill and have a good time, but it can also train us to handle negative emotions more effectively. Horror movies challenge our psychology, question our own behaviors, and allow us to feel fear and pain without actually being threatened. So the moral of the story is, scary movies just make us better people. And with that said, I'm going to run down my top 10 all-time favorite horror movies. Now, these are sort of in order, but not really. I actually love them all. And you can check out wise-eats.com/scary movies for my complete top 25 list. So starting off with number 1, it's Halloween 4. And any Halloween franchise movie could be my number 1 on this list, but Halloween 4 is my overall favorite. And by the way, a fun fact on the original Halloween movie, it took just 21 days to film it, and the way they selected the Michael Myers mask was kind of funny. Production designers were deciding between a clown mask and a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask, and they obviously ended up going with the William Shatner mask. They spray painted it white, cut the eye holes bigger, and the rest is history. Number 2 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. And this movie terrified me as a child. I used to have nightmares about Leatherface chasing me with the chainsaw, Michael Myers, chasing me with the knife, and they were scary as hell, and I loved them, actually. So, shout out to horror movie nightmares.
How's this for a wet dream?
Number 3 is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Can't have a good list without Freddy Krueger. Love the Nightmare on Elm Street series, but this particular movie had the biggest impact on me. Number 4 is Return of the Living Dead. I must have watched this movie 100 times with my cousins. Number 5 is the 2013 Evil Dead remake. I saw this one in the theaters, and man, it was disturbing. So, thought it was really cool. Number 6 is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Jason Voorhees is a legend, and this movie has always been my very favorite in the series. Number 7 is Lost Boys. And this movie never really scared me a whole lot, but it was just a super cool vampire movie with an awesome soundtrack that I still work out to this day. Number 8 is Creepshow 2. And I've always been a sucker for the short, scary stories, and the Creepshows were always awesome.
I-B-U. Creepshow 2.
Number 9 is Body Bags, which is another short story horror film from the master of horror, John Carpenter.
This one was found on a stretch of lonely highway, miles from the nearest town on a pitch-black night.
Last but not least is number 10, Scream. And this movie brought the horror genre back to life in 1996.
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
So that's my top 10. If you want to see the rest of the top 25, head over to wise-eats.com/scary movies. With some of the scary fun out of the way, let's get to a special edition of the Fat Guy Files. We're turning the clock back to Halloween of 2010. And this was an epically bad week and a perfect example of exactly what you should not be doing this Halloween. I was fresh off my 90-pound weight loss. I had gotten down to about 180 pounds a month or so before this, and I was already yo-yo dieting and back up to over 190 pounds. And you can see the exact journal entry from this week over at wise-eats.com/episode 15. You know, I was feeling confident that my health was back in order, and I was just allowing myself to yo-yo diet to an extreme level. And this is a perfect example of it. You can see from the diet journal entry that I was eating at least something processed pretty much every day, throwing in some healthy options here and there, but overall, not great. And the weekend was an epic binge of 7,500 calories each day with pizza, milkshakes, ice cream, a costume party thrown in there, with snacks and drinks, Burger King, taquitos, enchiladas, Taco Bell, and to round it all off, alcohol and McFlurries. So just another example of how I was just the worst of the worst when it came to diet, and I've come a long way, and I'm not actually going to get into today's diet. I think we've had enough of that. But if you do want to see my diet journal entry with all the calories and macros, I will post it at wise-eats.com/episode 15 so you can get an idea of where I am today. As much as I love Halloween, one thing I can guarantee you that I will not be doing this year is having any candy or junk food. Those days are long behind me, and I don't even see that stuff as food anymore. When I want to treat myself, I stick to real food. If I'm craving chocolate, I'll have a fully charged chocolate smoothie. If I'm craving something sweet, I'll have some Greek yogurt madness or some frozen fruit. There's just so many other alternatives that are delicious and healthy. So having candy is not even an option in my mind. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a total snob. I still appreciate great candy. I just don't eat it. And just for fun, here are America's top 10 Halloween candies according to candystore.com. All right, starting at the bottom with number 10, we have Hershey's. Number 9, Sour Patch Kids. Number 8, Tootsie Pops. Number 7, Hot Tamales. 6 is Candy Corn. I don't know who is making this list. Number 5 is Starburst, which you're getting back on track with that. I can dig that, I guess. Number 4 is Snickers. Now we're talking. Number 3 are M&M's. All right. Number 2, a respectable Reese's Cup. I can roll with that. And number 1, surprisingly to me, is Skittles, which I like Skittles, but it definitely would not be my number 1. And I think an obvious snub on this list is Twix. I don't know, maybe that's classified more as a cookie than a Halloween candy, but I think Twix is a must on a top 10 list. That was definitely one of my favorites. And here's a bonus fun fact. The average bag of candy that one child will collect on Halloween contains about 11,000 calories. So chew on that. Of course, I want everyone to enjoy the holiday as much as possible, but rather than fill up on candy this Halloween, why not try our recipe of the week, which is the Wise Eats Coconut Oil Chocolates. We actually called them the Clothesline Cocoa Cups on the website.
Today, we're changing the chocolate game with the Wise Eats Cocoa Cups.
This is an amazing recipe that's made with real ingredients instead of all that processed sugar that you get with candy. They're homemade chocolates where you control every ingredient. And the best part is, you can doctor these up to replace many of your favorite candies. If you love Almond Joy, sprinkle in some crushed almonds and coconut. If you love Snickers, add some peanuts. You love Reese's, put a dab of peanut butter in the middle. And one of our personal favorites is throwing in a little bit of banana. It's like a frozen chocolate-covered banana, and it's amazing. The possibilities are endless, so get over to wise-eats.com/Coco, that's COCO, and check that recipe out. Okay, a few quick announcements before I get out of here. The following announcement premiered this past Saturday, October 26th, and featured the latest recipe from Wise Eats, which is the sharpshooter breakfast salad. That's an awesome recipe that I have almost every day. But definitely get over to wise-eats.com to check that out. We have another recipe coming later in the season, pile driver pudding. That's another dessert recipe if I'm craving chocolate. So stay tuned to wise-eats.com. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons so you stay plugged into all that good stuff that's coming up.
No wonder he's such a hit on live. Or is it dead TV?
That's going to do it for a special Halloween edition of Wise Eats. But before I go, what would Halloween be without a scary story? Now, I'm actually going to share a short story that's from one of my favorite childhood books, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which they recently made a movie about. Haven't seen it yet, but looking forward to checking that out. But it's a story I think is pretty fitting for Wise Eats, and it's called Just Delicious. George Flint loved to eat. Every day at noon, he closed his camera shop for 2 hours and went home for a big lunch his wife Mina cooked for him. George was a bully, and Mina was a timid woman who did everything he asked because she was afraid of him. On his way home from lunch one day, George stopped at the butcher shop and bought a pound of liver. He loved liver. He would have Mina cook it for dinner that night. Despite all his complaints about her, she was a very good cook. While George ate his lunch, Mina told him that a rich old woman in town had died. Her body was in the church next door. It was in an open coffin. Anyone who wanted to see her could. As usual, George was not interested in what Mina had to say. "I've got to go back to work," he told her. After he left, Mina began to cook the liver. She added vegetables and spices and simmered it all afternoon, just the way George liked it. When she thought it was done, she cut off a small piece and tasted it. It was delicious, the best she had ever made. She ate a second piece, then a third. It was so good, she could not stop eating it. It was only when the liver was all gone that she thought of George. He would be coming home soon. What would he do when he found that she had eaten all of the liver? Some men would laugh, but not George. He would be angry and mean, and she did not want to face that again. But where could she get another piece of liver that late in the day? Then she remembered the old woman lying in the church next door, waiting to be buried. Thanks for tuning in, friends and fiends. And until next time, make terrifying choices. Well, hello there, wise guys and ghouls, and welcome to This is an amazing recipe that's made with real ingredients and has none of that processed sugar with the candy. Here's a bonus, and here's a bonus. Man, that's horrible. George Flint loved to eat. Every day.